quick introductions of our staff. First we have Sia.
I'm ready.
Right there, Sia. When you think about all the events that go on with Faithful Friends, whether it's this event, Echo Ranch, you have the Oaks Park, all the communication to all of you all, it's Sia, and she's just a wonderful, wonderful person, and just super grateful for her. Our newest member of our staff, Grace, where is she?
Hi.
Grace. Grace is awesome, just so positive. She put so much of this together today. She's a great new team member, and also just coming up with great new ideas. We're so happy to have her, part of Faithful Friends. And then we have Tim on the camera right there. Tim is like the jack of all trades, so intelligent. All the media stuff that you see, our website, and all of the stuff that gets to you guys, weekly emails and that sort of thing, that's Tim. And Tim just does so much with Faithful Friends, and we're super grateful for him as well. Awesome. And then lastly, I want to introduce you to our new executive director. And I'll have Rhona come up. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, why Faithful Friends, and a little bit about Transitional Youth.
Okay, awesome. Well, hi everybody. I just want to be a fly on the wall today. I am so amazed by your devotion and commitment, investment in the lives of kids, and it is just an incredible honor to be a part of this. And so Transitional Youth has been around for 33 years. We started off as an outreach in downtown Portland for kids that were experiencing homelessness. We had a drop-in center, and so we met them where they were at, meeting basic needs. And then about 15 years or so ago, we got our first home where kids could transition into long-term housing. And currently, we have 4 homes. We have a house for teen moms and babies. We have another house for girls called Harmony House, which actually happens to be on the same property as Echo Ranch. So some of you, we share that property, which is really amazing. So some of you may have seen the house up on the hill. That's for our young ladies. And then we have 2 homes for young men, one in Yakima, Washington. Anyone know where that is at all? Awesome, some of you do. It's by Battleground. And then we have a guy's house in Wilsonville. And then in addition to that, and some of you have been here, is Breaking Cycles Coffee and Bike Shop. How many of you have been over there for some different mentor-mentee events and such? So that's also under the umbrella of Transitional Youth, serving kids 14 years old to 24 in job skills. And so we've been friends for a long time, and I didn't see this coming. I don't think they saw this coming, but God decided to bring us together. And so now Faithful Friends is under the umbrella of Transitional Youth. And I love that because we serve infants, little ones, toddlers, and children. And then you guys start at 6 years old and then up to 12, right? And then we start serving kids 14. So it literally has closed the gap. And so anyway, I'm super excited to be a part of this and excited to learn more about you and to see what God has in store. Awesome.
Amen. Awesome. Thank you,
Thank
Rhona.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is a celebration. I'm not going to stay up here long. One thing I did forget to mention is that Tim, Grace, and Sia not only are on staff, but they believe so much in this that they're also mentors of Faithful Friends. So yeah, just super appreciate you guys. So most of y'all know the story a little bit, but so Duncan Campbell, who started Faithful Friends, also started an organization called Friends of the Children. I worked there for 24 years as a mentor. And he had these 3 rules that he called the 3 B's. The first B, and I think they really apply to Faithful Friends as well, even though we haven't really advertised it in this way, but the first B is to be yourself. We want you to be uniquely who God made you, showing up in these kids' lives every day. You don't have to show up in a fancy car. You don't have to show up with fancy clothes. You show up week after week, and we'll have Drew come up in a few minutes to talk about just that idea of just showing up. So we want you to be yourselves, though. The second B, is to be with the children. And year after year, we have you guys logging, thousands of hours of being with kids. And we know that it's not about the hours. Well, Patrice probably has half of those hours. But it's about showing up in these kids' lives, inviting that kid to come to your house, spend an afternoon cooking, baking, watching TV. It's about going to the park and playing, like Dave Bart's, playing with the ball and kicking a ball around with a kiddo. It's the simplicity of just being there with the kids, showing up week after week, just loving on them. And so we're so grateful that you all are doing that. The third B is about today. It's being with each other. So this is the church right here. We are the church. And just coming together to celebrate mentoring, getting to know each other, and just fellowshipping. So the 3 B's: be yourself, be with the children, and be with each other. All right. So with that said, I'm going to introduce to you Drew, who is, along with his wife, also a mentor with Faithful Friends, a local author. You'll see some of the books on the table. Those are his books. And just a regular good guy. So come on up.
Thanks, Chon.
Yeah.
So what Chon didn't tell you is that he's kind of the star of my book. I think the first chapter, I tell the story about how Chon, for a while, was entering all these raffles, one after another, and he won 3 trips to Hawaii. And I have heard from several readers now who seem to think that the main idea of my book is that if you enter a lot of raffles, they too will win trips to Hawaii. So we'll see how that works out for them. Man, it's awesome to be here. It's an honor. I think I've had a chance to meet a lot of you. But it's cool to look around this room and just think of the impact and to look at this slideshow and see some of these mentees and just thinking of the profound, long-lasting impact that your ministry, because that's really what it is having in the lives of these kids. Grace and I are pretty new to Faithful Friends. Really, we were talking about this last week, and I was like, how long have we been doing this? And it started about 1.5 years ago. And I'll admit, like at first, I was a little apprehensive because I didn't really know much about mentoring, and I had a few questions, like, will this kid think I'm cool? And that's been answered, sadly. Can we take them for ice cream every week? Because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, this last Thursday, that's the day we hang out with our mentee. We took her to Menchie's, the frozen yogurt shop. And we were sitting there eating our frozen yogurt, and they have these tables, and on the tables, they have all these dad jokes written on the tables. Really bad dad jokes, too. And at one point, our sweet little 10-year-old girl, mentee, looked at it, and she looked at Grace, and she said, "It looks like they hired your husband here." What kind of burn is that, huh? No, but it has been an awesome experience. Our little girl has been through a lot, and yet she is sweet and resilient, and it's been a joy to see her, integrated into the life of our family. We have kids around the same age, including my daughter Mary here, who's 10, 13-year-old boy, 6-year-old girl, and it's been awesome to see them form those friendships and just kind of enmesh our life with her. And honestly, what inspired us to get involved in the first place is you guys. Because we were a little nervous about it, but then we saw people like my brother Darren's here, and he's been mentoring with his wife Tiffany for 3 years. Our pastors CJ and Amy and his wife, they're not here today I don't think, but they've been doing it for years as well. And hearing Chon's stories and Tim's, and it just kind of inspired us, hey, maybe we can do this too. And we're so glad that we did, because it's been an absolute joy. And then of course, like Chon mentioned, Faithful Friends asked my wife to come on staff. They didn't ask me, but that's okay. A little hurtful. But around the time we were getting involved with Faithful Friends, I've been thinking a lot about the topic of the importance of physical presence, of just being there for people, not sending them a message or just theoretically loving people from afar, but the importance of being physically present with people, just showing up for people, and that's kind of what led me to write the book. And it was kind of, when I look back, it was a lesson that I really learned later in life. Because, I'm more of an idea guy. I love arguing about theology. That's kind of my jam. But often when it comes to actually living out those principles, that's where there was a bit of a disconnect. And I was thinking back to when Grace and I were in our 20s, and we had these very big, you might say grandiose ideas about what we wanted to do for God. Wasn't God lucky to have us on his side? But we had these big ideas of what we wanted to do with our life, something really radical. And I remember shortly after we got married, we were living in the Portland area here, I decided I wanted to go to seminary. I had 0 vocational objectives. I don't know what I was thinking. But we packed all our earthly possessions into our Volkswagen Beetle, and we struck out for Pasadena. And it was an awesome experience being down there. We spent 2.5 years at Fuller Seminary. I was taking classes. Grace worked on campus with a center for art and theology. And our whole life was about ideas. You know, we would sit on campus debating theology with people. We'd go to lectures in the evenings. And it was a really fun and enlivening time. And I remember at one point we kind of got tired of just piling up knowledge about God in our heads, and we're like, we need to live this out. And we went and started serving in a soup kitchen, and at one point we got like little copies of the Gospel of John and started handing them out on the street and trying to strike up conversations, spiritual conversations with strangers. And our little attempts at changing the world didn't result in much change, but we weren't discouraged. We thought, man, this is just a foretaste of what we assumed would be a countercultural, exciting life. And I remember saying to Grace, I'm like, I don't want the American dream. Let's let other people do the house in the suburbs and the 2.5 kids and the white picket fence. We're going to do something different. And she was right there with me. And it's a little embarrassing to even say that now, because guess what my life looks like? I live in the suburbs. We drive a minivan. We eat it all, girl. We don't have 2.5 kids, we have 3. And don't get me wrong, it's awesome. I'm so grateful for the way that our life has turned out. But it provoked, like in middle age, a little crisis for me where I was going, wow, I thought life was going to turn out differently. I thought we'd be overseas doing some world-changing thing. And my life's turned out a lot more ordinary than I thought it would be. And it was around that time that Grace asked me a good question. She said, who are the people you most admire? And as I started listing the people that I most admire, I had a realization. Not one of them were world changers. Not one of them had done something that was so like big and daring and dramatic. But why did I admire them? It's because they were faithful. Because they were people who showed up for others and kept loving people even in spite of some really difficult obstacles. And that's where I kind of got the title for the book. It's like, just show up. I just realized the importance of being physically present, loving people. And I think that is, even though I'm still a newcomer to Faithful Friends, but I think that kind of encapsulates the heart of this ministry, right? Like Chon was saying, you don't have to show up in a fancy car. You don't have to have expertise or credentials. It's your presence for these kids that's so important. Our mentee is a sweet girl, like I said. Not terribly verbal, though. And sometimes, like, most 10-year-olds aren't, right? And you're kind of like, is she enjoying this? Is this helpful? Especially at first. And yet there are so many little signs that have shown us that she really values those Thursdays together. And a few weeks ago, she was going through a period where her primary caregiver wasn't in the house in the evenings. So it was just her and her 13-year-old brother at home. And she called one night, Grace. And Grace was a little confused, like, you know, she didn't know exactly why she was calling. Just kind of wanted to chat. It was late. It was about 10 o'clock at night. And after a while, Grace just said, are you lonely? She said, yeah. And Grace said, do you want me to pray over you, put you to bed? And she said, yeah. She's like, but just a minute, I'm going to put the phone on speaker because I want to go get my brother so you can pray for him too. And it was really sweet. Like, moments like that are sacred. And so, you know, when Grace asked me to say a few words at this, I was like, this isn't the group that needs this message. They're already doing it. You really are. You're an inspiration to me. But I guess, if anything, I just want to commend you in the work that you're doing. Because it is important. And sometimes it can seem a little prosaic because you're just hanging out with a kid on a Tuesday or a Thursday night. And yet those moments matter. And I think a lot of us, if you think back to your childhood, you can probably remember a certain adult in a season of your life, or maybe just like in a moment that said something to you that had a profound impact on you, that may even have changed the trajectory of your life. I remember my 6th grade teacher, Mr. Kwasny, and I was like flunking all my classes. And I remember saying to him, I'm just dumb, I can't get this stuff. And he said, Drew, you're not dumb, you're smart. And he took me under his wing, spent half a year of his lunches to teach me and get me up to grade level, and it had a huge impact on my life. And I don't know if, I thanked him years later, and he was the sweetest guy, and he said, I'm not surprised at all, Drew, that you're doing good. And just to have someone speak into your life, to be there for you, is absolutely huge. And of course, I think the reason that we do this, I know so many of you do this, is because someone did it for you when you were a kid, maybe in an informal way. And ultimately, it's because God has showed up for us in the person of his son, Jesus, and lavished his love into our lives, and we can't help but having it spill out into the lives of others. And when we do that for kids, that's huge. So I just want to encourage you, keep doing it, keep hanging in there. I know it's not easy all the time, especially when you've got a busy schedule, and that day rolls around, and you go, oh, it's that day, we got to pick up that person or hang out. But it matters, even the ordinary moments. It matters now in their lives. It will matter through the rest of their life. And I believe it will matter for eternity.
Amen.
So keep going. Thank you for a few minutes.
I met with a mentor a couple of days ago, and she asked, I just want to ask if something is okay. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like really getting ready for this. She said, I went to the park and I just let my kid just play, and I just sat there. And I was like, yes, that is okay. That is actually more than okay. It's just that, it's the simplicity of what we do, showing up. And over the 2-3 years, I look at some of the mentors over there who've been matched 5 years. It's like over that time, it's incredible. The sort of impact that you are making, even if it doesn't feel like it every day. And Duncan, going back to Duncan again, one of his most powerful mentoring moments, Friends of the Children had this house that was dedicated just for mentors to go hang out with the kids. And one time he walked into the house, he just showed up unannounced, and he saw a mentor laying on the couch reading a book. And the mentee was lying in a chair over there reading a book. He said that was the most powerful mentoring moment he's ever seen. They were together, even though they weren't like, sometimes we think that we have to be right here all the time, and they were just together. And so just consider that. A mentor sent this video to me. I just wanted to play it real quick for y'all. It's about, you'll see what it's about, but yeah, it's just, again, what we do.